Hi, this is Chef Alain. Today we're going to learn how to make cracklins, which is a traditional German side dish or possibly a snack. We're here in my kitchen. My mom used to make this all the time, and she complained because we ate it faster than she could cook it. But you think, okay, truly what it is, it's fried fat, fried hog fat, but most of the fat is left in the pan. It's really not that bad, and it's really delicious. Today I have a pork loin that I'm going to use to get the fat from. You can use anything like this. Pork butt is good for this because it has a nice slab of fat on it, but this does too. And I bought this to cook for something else, so I'm going to cut the fat off. First I'm going to cut it in half because I'm going to cook half of it one time and half of it another time. The main thing is you just need a sharp chef's knife so you can get under the membrane and cut the fat off, because you don't want a lot of meat. You can get a little meat with it, but you really don't want the meat. The main thing is to get the fat, and then you slice it up into usually approximately a 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch pieces. Those will fry up really nice. So I don't have anyone helping me to film this, so I'm going to stop now, and then I'm going to cut the fat off, and then I'll show you what we do with it. Okay, now we've cut the fat off, and I didn't mention before, since we're working with pork, we want to make sure we have plenty of paper towels and things to wipe our hands on that we can throw away. Okay, but if you're not that familiar with trimming fat off of meat, basically the thing is you start at a point where the fat starts, and you take your knife and you slice underneath it like so. So you get under it. Okay? You go a little ways. Then you grab that piece of fat and you pull up real hard while you keep cutting with your knife. Back and forth, and your knife will go up against the membrane, and you just keep pulling up real hard, and it'll cut mostly fat off, and you'll end up with slices of fat like this with a little bit of meat. Like I said, we don't want to get too much because the main thing is to get the fat, but you'll see there's a little meat here and there, but that membrane, if you keep pulling up real hard, that membrane will allow you to pull that fat up and cut it off with just a thin layer of meat. So you're not wasting, it's not waste, but you're not using a lot of meat, because this is not a meat dish. It's fried fat. Next step will be to cut this into pieces, and then we'll fry it in, my preference is an iron skillet. You're going to want a lid. I have 2 iron skillets that I use a lot. A smaller and a deeper one, depending on, this is one I use for the oven a lot to cook, which is what I'm going to use to cook that piece of pork. A smaller one, or a shorter one, is good for this. This is really good for seasoning a frying pan. This pork fat will season it to where it never needs anything. We don't wash frying pan or iron pans with soap or anything. Mostly you can just wipe them out when you're done, when they're seasoned well. So cooking pork fat in iron skillet is the best way to season it. I've had these for a long time. These have been in the family for who knows how many years. 50, 60, 70 years probably. Okay, Chef Alain, back. We're going to cut up this pork fat to make cracklins. This is what we cut off of the pork loin. Mostly just trying to get the fat, but we always end up, it's hard to not get a little meat, but that doesn't hurt a thing. No camera crew today. So we have all these pieces. I'm going to cut those up. As always, when you're handling pork or things like this, you want to have paper towels around to wipe your hands on so you can throw them away. Now I'm going to cut some of this up, and we normally cut this into little rectangles, 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch. So I'll cut some up and then I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll start cooking. Now you can see from this that I start by cutting it into strips about 1/4 inch, and then I'll cut them into about 1/2 inch pieces from there. Okay, now there's that chunk cut up into pieces, approximately 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch. It doesn't have to be exact. It's just as long as you have a nice sharp knife, you just do the best you can. Okay, here's all the pork fat cut up, ready to go. You don't have to add any oil or anything to your pan. All you need is a well-seasoned skillet. You can use a stainless steel skillet if you want. Because of the fat in the pork, it's going to make its own grease. Need something to, turn it with. Then you'll have a plate. You'll probably want to put paper towels on there to soak up a little excess grease. And even though we're frying hog fat here, it's not as bad as it sounds, because most of the grease is going to be left in your pan, and of course that's going to help to season it. Just pour that out. And you can save it or you can throw it away. It's your choice. But I think my pan, it's smoking a little bit. It's starting to get hot. I'm going to add some in, and then I'll come back and show you. Okay, now I've thrown some of the future cracklins into the pan. Don't try to do too much at one time. Make sure it can stay, and try to get all of it, touching the pan. So you can get that grease going. I like to push it down a little bit, and get it going. Squeeze a little bit out, and then let it fry, and then just start stirring it up. Right now, this pan, of course I'm cooking on electric stove, which I don't like, but I have the small burner on high, and I'm probably going to turn it down just a little bit. It's on 6. That'll probably be good enough. Once this gets going, then I'll have the grease in the pan, so when I throw the next bunch in, which is about the same amount as what I put in this time, it'll start frying up. And I don't want it too hot then, because it'll just fry on the outside and won't cook as much of the grease out of the cracklins. So we'll let this go a little bit, and then I'll come back and show you again. I want to add that I do have this lid. That's just steam coming out. I put the lid on a little bit, leave plenty of room for the steam and stuff to come out, just to keep a little bit of the grease from splattering around. It makes it easier to clean up later. That's the worst thing, in my opinion, about frying bacon or anything like this, is the mess that it makes. So you can see I've got plenty of room to let the steam out, but yet it's blocking a lot of the grease from flying around. Okay, this is still the first batch, and you can see they're browner. What I want to stress is you really need to fry the heck out of this stuff, okay? That gets the grease out of the pieces, and I like to squish it down and just, really bust open those cells. Get that fat out of there. Okay? Get them guys down into the heat. You can see the nice golden brown color, but you got to keep them. They really need to be in contact with the pan. I turned my heat back up to high on this. I'm going to spread these guys out so they can get down in the grease and just really fry that. This piece right here has a lot of meat to it, and this one here, you see it has the fat on this side, so I can just cut into easily. I'm going to cut into that. I'm going to try to bust that fat out of there the best you can. Alright, now these guys are about ready to be harvested. You can see the brown color, you know, they've really shrunk down a lot, and when I poke at them, they're kind of hard, okay? Which means there's not a lot of fat left in these dudes. So I'm just going to stir them around a little bit. Alright, and you can see this oil is smoking. I have turned the heat down, but, or since it's an electric stove, it takes a little while, but they have a tendency to want to stick to each other a little bit, too. So, you can see I'm just scooping them out, but they're trying to stick to each other a little bit, so I'm going to knock them around a little bit. I'm going to get the rest out, and then I'll put the new batch in. See, now the new batch is in there, and they're just going to sizzle like crazy, and that's because of all the water that's in the pork. So I still have it on 8. You know, with an electric stove, whatever you do, it takes 5 minutes for it to change. So I'm just going to let it go with that, and every now and then I'm going to take the lid off, stir them around a little bit, you know, try to keep them separated. And when I take the lid off, and I carry it over and I put it over on the sink, I want to tip the lid when I get there, try to let that water run off the inside of the lid. So I'll hold it horizontal, taking it over there, and then when I get there, I'll tip it and let that water run off the lid so that it doesn't go back into the pan. Now here are some of the cracklins from the first batch. You see they're brown, gold. You know, when you bite, they should be kind of hard when you squeeze them. When you bite into them, they should have a crunchy flavor, just like, you know, bacon, but without all the salt curing and everything. It's like bacon, but it has more of a, just a, I don't know, a different flavor. It doesn't have all that salt and all that's used to cure the bacon. So in that way, I assume it's probably a little better, but it has a different flavor. But it's one that it's good, and it's good to complement with other foods. You can see that since the grease was already in there from the first batch, this second batch is going to cook a lot faster, brown a lot faster. So we need to keep stirring this and not let it sit, you know, just on one side too long. And it'll be done in just a few minutes. Okay, you can see the next batch is moving on very nicely. It's getting brown. Just a few more minutes. Stir it around a little bit, and then let it have a minute or so just to try to eke out a little bit more of that fat and make it nice and crispy. Okay, well, we've put the second batch of cracklins on the plate. You can see, you know, we're going for this nice color, stiff feeling. The pieces that, like this one, that don't have a lot of meat, when we bite them, it should be nice and crunchy and firm. And it tells us that most of the grease has gone off into the pan, and we're gonna dump that out tonight. We're not gonna save it because this pan has to make room for tonight's dinner, which is going to be a rump roast. We're not going to show you how we're cooking that tonight, because we just need to eat that. But until next time, maybe we'll do a roast like this, or a pork butt or something like that. And I hope that you will try the cracklins, and I think you'll find them, something that you'll enjoy having over and over.
Chef Alon is not a real chef, nor does he claim to be. He just likes the name.